So welcome back to another video here in Pennsylvania. As you can tell by the title of the video, we're finally going to finish our Forbes expedition. This is part 3. I'm currently here in Bedford. Am I in Bedford? Yeah, I'm still in Bedford County. You might remember that, the 1806 church I filmed some time ago. Yeah, this is Shellsburg. You're right near Shawnee State Park. We're still here in Bedford, I believe. So soon we'll be in Somerset. I almost said Somerset County. But yeah, so this is part 3. It's been a long time coming, but we're finally getting it done. Part 1, we made it from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, all the way to here, roughly Fort Bedford, or what back then was called Fort Raystown. And then we did a part 2. I was just going to do 2 parts, but I did get that great permission. We got to visit Fort Dewart, the remains of Fort Dewart. Remember that was last November, the snow. I was out with those 2 guys, those other historians. That was amazing. So I decided to just do a part 2 for that. So that was from here, from Fort Bedford, up to what's called the Allegheny front, where Fort Dewart was located. So in this video, we're going to make our way from where Fort Dewart roughly was on the Allegheny front, and we're going to first make our way to Fort Ligonier. I'll probably point out a few places along the way. There's some other historical markers along the way where some other encampments were. Not going to stop at them because this is Route 30, and trying to find a place to pull off on Route 30 and find a place to talk with all the traffic is just not going to happen. So, but I'll point them out as we drive by. I might not catch them right at the exact moment. But yeah, we're gonna make it to Fort Ligonier. It's a little bit after 9. They open at 10 o'clock. They're open at 10 daily, so we should make it there. I think it's about an hour to get to Fort Ligonier from here. And then we're gonna make our way to Point State Park, where Fort Duquesne was located. I'm gonna venture back into downtown Pittsburgh. I thought about not going there in this video, but you know, that's where this expedition ends. It was all about the capture of Fort Duquesne, so we do need to stop in there again. Of course, then I think I mentioned in a previous video, I'll be heading down to Ryerson Station State Park down in Greene County to camp for tonight, probably for 2 nights. All right, let's get going. All right, so as usual, I'll be taking you along with me as we drive along for a bit. Getting some rain this morning. So I'm not going to cover the whole background of Forbes expedition in this video. I already did that back in part 1. So if you want to know more details about it, you can watch that video. I have a whole series on the French and Indian Wars on my playlist. You can find that on my channel. Yeah, but we're gonna make our way up to what's called the Allegheny front, and we'll pass the road that goes back to Fort Dewart. Won't be visiting that today. Like I said, there's a few historical markers on our way to Fort Ligonier. Fort Ligonier is really important. Just like Fort Raystown, it was like there were larger forts that they built along the way and smaller ones. But Fort Raystown, later known as Fort Bedford, was one of the big ones, one of like the staging areas. And so was Fort Ligonier. There's quite a bit of history to it. But there are a few smaller ones along the way as well, which I'll try to point out. Alright, I'll catch up with you in a bit. Alright, we are currently climbing up the Allegheny front. Elevation over 2,000 feet there. It's sprinkling today, this morning. Shouldn't last all day though. Hopefully it'll stop by the time we get to Fort Ligonier. If not, we got an umbrella though. Oh yeah, here you enter Somerset County. I think, yeah, off to our... Yeah, that's the spot. Yeah, off to our right there is the road that takes you to Fort Dewart. Of course, it's private property, but like I said, we got permission. Alright, so part 3, I guess technically begins here, once we get past Fort Dewart. Oh, there's a sign right there for Fort Dewart, historical sign. Yeah, so in about 10 miles will be the next historical sign. It's for a place called Edmund's Swamp, named after Edmund Cartledge. He was an Indian trader in the area that helped, I think, as an interpreter and stuff. They built a little encampment there. I guess the area was good for horses. There was a lot of grass growing there. So I'll try and hopefully I'll be able to point that marker out as we get closer. And of course, as we drive along, you got a picture once again. This was 1758. So things would have looked a whole lot different back then. No highway. They were building a road out this way. So as they were, but it wasn't just about marching on a pre-existing road. to try and get out to Fort Duquesne, which they were trying to capture from the French. We talked about that in previous videos. In which they did succeed in this campaign. But we'll talk about that more when we get to Fort Duquesne. Hopefully we make it to Pittsburgh. I do not like driving in Pittsburgh, to be honest. But yeah, this would have been like just old growth virgin forest. They had to build a road through. Yeah, I think right there's the marker, Edmund Swamp. So, right here, what's this town? Buckstown, this place is called, I think. The country store, the Stotts country store. Alright, so now we're headed to Stoy's town, I believe it's called. And there was another encampment there too. I think they call it the Stony Creek encampment. I think it's only like 8 minutes from here. There's also a covered bridge there that we're going to do, because I'll do that in another video, but I'll probably stop and film that then. The Trosseltown Bridge, I believe it's called. And here's a good view. I don't know if you can see it, see well on the camera. You can see the mountains in the distance. You know, they had to make their way all the way through those. I think up ahead is some of those mountains are the Laurel Highlands, which they had to make their way over. Oh yeah, here's the Flight 93 Memorial. I stopped in there a couple years ago. It's quite a sobering place. Just don't really have time for it today, unfortunately. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to go there, it's quite, man, yeah. Anyway, alright. Alright, so this is Stoy's town. Oh, right there's the marker. I see it on the side of the road there for the Stony Creek campground. Alright, but I'm looking for a covered bridge. Well, I see the covered bridge down there. So I think we gotta turn left up here. Alright, I'll catch up with you later. I gotta go film this covered bridge. Alright, so I got done filming that covered bridge. It's actually a nice one. You can't drive across that one, but it's really picturesque, if I can say it right. Alright, so we are now, this was Stoy's town, so now next town is Jennerstown, I believe. And just past that is the next historical marker for another fort. Fort Dudgeon, I'm not sure how to say it quite right. But it is, I think, like I said, we're approaching the Laurel Highlands here in a bit. And it's on top of there, I believe. Because another reason I'm not stopping at these locations is that there's nothing really left of them. I think some of them might have an older historical marker nearby the actual location, but like I said, I got a lot to do this day, so I'll have to make some cuts somewhere sometimes. Alright, onwards we go. Alright, so we are in the Laurel Highlands now. This is Jennerstown. So just past Jennerstown should be the next historical marker. I forget if there's actually one for this or not. On the road. Yeah, but Fort Ligonier is only 15 minutes away then. So from what I've seen, that's a pretty awesome place to visit. They have like a reproduction of the fort there and get a good idea of what it looks like. Kind of like if you remember visiting Fort Loudon, what that looked like. But probably on a grander scale. At least from the pictures I've seen. Alright, not sure if there's going to be a marker or not. I feel like it should have been back there. I don't see any way up ahead. Okay, I think right back there. Oh, here, up here it is. Up on our right. We'll pass it. Oh, it's called the Clearfields. I think it's also referred to as Fort Dudgeon or something like that. Probably pronouncing it wrong. Alright, well, we're gonna, like I said, I've got 15 minutes to get to Fort Ligonier, so let's get there. Right, here's Ligonier. I think we need to turn here. This is Route 711. And then right once again. Is this it right here? Yeah, Fort Ligonier. Actually, I think I should... Oh, I can park further up here. Let's see, a school bus. There's probably some school kids here, maybe. Alright. Cool. Find a place to park. Alright, so here's a first look at the fort, reproduction of it. It's right next to Route 30, so it'll be a little bit of noise. Just got my ticket, paid to get in here. It's about $15 for an adult, but they have all kinds of stuff. There's a museum inside. We might take a look in there a little bit too, but there's a bunch of kids in there right now. School kids, which is fine, but I don't disturb their thing. But they got some of the old cannons and stuff here. Alright, so we're gonna head up in there. I did get recognized by one of the workers here, so Spencer, I think his name is. I'll probably meet him later. Get back in the museum. But let's head up into the fort, see what it looks like in here. This is actually really cool. Okay, so here's the sentry box, like a guard room. Of course, the pokey sticks are meant to keep people out. Wow. Got all the cannon placements. I guess these are like the, what do they call these? Are these like the swivel guns, I think they call them? Like the little mini cannons. Those are pretty cool. So just like Fort Raystown was a huge staging area for the campaign, so is Fort Ligonier, one of the larger forts. Because this was like the staging area for that final push to get to Fort Duquesne. So they were here for quite a while, actually, building this fort. As you can see, I mean, Chris, remember this is a reproduction. They do have all kinds. Oops, I gotta watch where I'm walking. All kinds of cannon here, mortars. This mortar throws an 8-inch shell. It's great weight, heavy recoil, require a reinforced bed of 2 sections. Wow. And there's like an inner part to the fort. Yeah, so they arrived here in September. I'm thinking it was like September 12th. And they were running behind schedule. They're hoping to be here in this area by summer, because most of the campaigns back then occurred during the summer. You didn't really want to be out here in the wintertime. Check it out, there's the moat. Here's some of the inner parts of the fort. More cannon. There's a big guy right there. Wow. Some different places they'd stay. I guess these are like the barracks and stuff like that. Oh, they have things set up here, like cool, like, oh yeah. Soldiers' barracks. Oh yeah, there's beds over here. Now, not all the soldiers stayed in places like this. That's one thing I learned from being at Fort Raystown. Other places, there were lots of other smaller, there tended to be lots of other smaller forts in the area. Because there were thousands of soldiers here. Wow. Supply room. Cool. Man, I love the smell in here too. Yeah, they call it the storehouse there. Reminds me of some other places I've been to. What's over here? That's the same room. Is it? Oh no, oh yeah, it's the same room, yeah. Yes, like I said, they're running behind schedule. The idea would be to be at Fort Duquesne by September and capture the fort. That way you would be done and out of there by wintertime. But, you know, they got here and there's some debate as to whether or not they should continue to Fort Duquesne just because the progress was so slow. Because remember, they were building a road just to get out here. So it was taking them a long time to do this. But there was an event that occurred that spurred them onwards, shall we say. Yeah, Colonel Bouquet, he sent kind of a reconnaissance mission, I think under, what was his name, James Grant, I think his name was, Major General James Grant, to kind of check out what was going on with Fort Duquesne, which actually is not terribly far away. It's only 20 minutes from here, so they were close. I think about 50 miles maybe, or something like that. But instead of just doing reconnaissance, he tried to attack the fort. He tried to draw the French out and attack them, and that did not go well at all. He was defeated, he was captured himself. It was very discouraging for everybody here. There's storehouse room, it looks like. Sir John St. Clair. Oh yeah, he's the guy in charge of making sure they had all the food and everything in the quartermaster's office. Maybe bags of flour. Yeah, that's, wow, yeah. Maybe salted pork in the barrels. But as a result of that defeat, the French did attack this fort at one point then. But then, I think in a separate instance, one of the enemy was captured nearby here out in the woods, and they interrogated him, and they found out from him that Fort Duquesne was actually under pretty deplorable conditions. All the Native American allies had left them. We talked about that in the video we did on the Treaty of Easton that occurred. That was the Indians signed a treaty to stay out of the war. It's because Fort Duquesne was supplemented by thousands of Native American fighters. But they all left. It was just the French. They were running low on supplies and all kinds of stuff like that. Officers' quarters. This is where the important people sleep. Nice big blue blankets. The maps. Yeah, there's some of the places. There's Raystown, Edmonds Swamp, Loyalhanna. Oh, I think that might... Is that also Fort Dudgeon? I think I saw a sign for that on the way here, but... Yeah. Oh, they also have Braddock's Road on here. Oh, there's Grant. Grant's Assault Road. There's Fort Duquesne. I think Loyalhanna is Fort Ligonier. I think that's what that is. Yes, just there we go. There's a map of the whole area. Pennsylvania's right here. But because of the information given by that person, the British here and the colonials, they decided to push on towards Fort Duquesne. They just did it a lot faster. Because on their way to here, they were building a very large road, trying to make it a nice road, and all that kind of stuff to get all the equipment here. But the last bit to Fort Duquesne, they just kind of rushed. They didn't really make a full-size road, if I remember correctly. They just kind of, they had to get there. They still had to make a road, so the troops and the horses and some of the cannons could get there. But they kind of moved along a little bit faster, because they only got to Fort Duquesne, I think, November 25th, so it still took them a little while to get there. Alright, this place is awesome. Actually, let's head into the museum next, I think. It'd just be nice if it wasn't right next to Route 30, but that's the way it is, folks. Bigger than I thought it would be. It's just some of the different weapons they've had and stuff. Of course, not all of this is Fort Ligonier related either, though. Just a lot of other things pertaining to that time period. And I'm not going to show you all of it. We'll be here for 2 hours. I don't have that time today. So there's some of the uniforms. The officers of war. cannons. Some more of the old guns. I'd like to fight with one of those. Here we go, on the Forbes Road. Huh. Yeah, so we started in Carlisle, made our way to Fort Loudon. Yeah, there's the fort, the reproduction of it. Drove near Fort Littleton. There's Juniata Crossing. We talked about that we can't actually get to its own private property. Then there's Fort Bedford, which at the time was called Fort Raystown. And now we're here at Fort Ligonier, making our way to Fort Duquesne. Yeah, here it talks about the battle that took place here in October. Yeah, Colonel James Byrd was in charge. Yeah, it talks about there's Grant's defeat. So you're under pressure to finish this fort. Yeah. So you can read some of that there. Yeah. The affair between ourselves appears to be humiliating. 1,000 men keep more than 1,500 blockaded, carry off all their horses and retire undisturbed. We still want the French. How frustrating it is. Yeah, so like I said, folks, there's a ton of stuff here. You can make a whole hour-long video just this, but like I said, I don't really have time for that today, unfortunately. So let's get a few snippets of it. All right, so we got the new hat, stopped in at the gift shop. This will be it for Fort Ligonier, at least for today. Like I said, there's a whole lot more here to see probably, but we do have to get going as well. Got a time limit. Anyway, we gotta head on to Pittsburgh. Actually, we're gonna stop at one other spot too. Not related to this video. I gotta film. We're gonna try to stop at the Allegheny County High Point. Let's try to get that done. But then we gotta go back to Pittsburgh. Point State Park. Don't really like driving through Pittsburgh, but we need to finish strong. All right, so onwards to Fort Duquesne in Pittsburgh. So picture yourself, some of the men trying to get there in time before full winter sets in. That was the goal. They're moving pretty swiftly at this point. We only have about 20 minutes drive, I think. Well, actually, like I said, I do have to stop at one other place, so it'll be a bit longer than that. I think there's one other camp, but I don't think we'll pass right by the marker. I've heard it called Washington's Camp or 12 Mile Camp, because Washington and some Virginia troops did join this expedition. I think we talked about that in an earlier video. So he was present. I should mention too that Forbes Road does follow roughly, I should say Route 30 does roughly follow Forbes Road for the most part. But I think somewhere up here you're better off following Route 22 as Forbes Road. I said like roughly. We'll be on 22 later though. I do need to make a quick correction to the time. I think I said Fort Duquesne is only 20 minutes from Fort Ligonier. It's an hour. I just checked my notes again. It's 20 minutes from where I'm headed next. I'm going to a place called Boyce Park. This is not part of this video. It's part of my County High Points video. That's going to be my high point of Allegheny County. So I was looking ahead to those notes when I saw 20 minutes, but it's actually from Fort Ligonier to Pittsburgh is more like an hour. So let's make a quick correction there. All right, so I just got done filming my Allegheny High Point video, Allegheny County High Point video. Now we're gonna be making our way to Pittsburgh, Point State Park, where Fort Duquesne was located. So I did pass the historical marker for that other camp, but I didn't get it on film though. So from this point on, I'm probably not gonna film in the Jeep anymore. I'm probably just gonna make my way straight to Fort Duquesne. It's gonna get pretty, busy on the roads. Not much to see. We'll be on Interstate, what's it, 376 soon. It's kind of busy and noisy. So hopefully, if everything works out okay and I don't get lost, I hopefully will see you at Fort Duquesne at the end of the Forbes expedition, where they raised, was it November 25th, 1758, to raise the British flag over what was left of the fort. We'll talk about that too. And here we are, back in Pittsburgh. Just up there is Fort Duquesne. Yeah, so right in this grassy area is where Fort Duquesne was located. Of course, it was replaced later by Fort Pitt, which is right over there. Maybe we'll try and stop in there. But yeah, this is where the Forbes expedition ended. I think November 25th, if I got the date right. They have a little outline of the fort up here. It wasn't very big. Yeah, so as stated, the French, maybe I didn't state it already, but the French abandoned the fort before the British even arrived. Once their Native American allies had left, they had very few supplies left too, and they realized they just wouldn't be able to hold out. So they abandoned the fort and burned it. Yeah, right here we are. They have the kind of the outline of it here. You can see like the bastions. So we were just at Fort Ligonier earlier. You kind of imagine the same thing here a little bit, but on a smaller scale. But I believe it was Colonel Armstrong that is the one that raised the British flag over here over the fort. I think maybe him and Washington were here together. Even though the French are gone and the fort burned down, they raised the British flag over it. And of course, like I said, they did not rebuild Fort Duquesne, but they built another fort here, Fort Pitt, just up that way. And unfortunately, of course, I did a video on Forbes himself, General Forbes. He did make it here, but if you remember, he was always, the whole expedition, he was struggling with like either dysentery or stomach cancer. He did make it here. He didn't stay all that long, but he did get back to Philadelphia, but he died shortly after from that condition, so it's kind of sad. Yeah, so right in here is the culmination of the Forbes expedition. We finally made it, Fort Duquesne. And once they had this, they controlled what's called, the forks of the Ohio here, because this is where the Allegheny and the Monongahela rivers join, form the Ohio. That's why they call it the forks of the Ohio. And like I said, they built Fort Pitt. Fort Pitt did come under siege. It's right after the French and Indian War. There was another short war called Pontiac's War. We'll talk about that later. I'll probably tag it on to this series. It was under siege, but Colonel Henry Bouquet did relieve that siege during the Battle of Bushy Run, but like that's for another series. But yeah, of course it stood the test of time. It was here during the Revolutionary War and all that. Yeah. So here it is. We're kind of at the end now all of a sudden. But if only Forbes, Bouquet, Armstrong, Washington, if only they could see what's here now. Trust me, that wasn't there in 1758. This would have been all like wilderness area. But how things change. Well, let's take a quick visit to Fort Pitt, see if the museum is open. Actually, was never there. I was here before at the park, but I never checked out the museum. I'm not sure if it's open today or not. All right, time to see if this place is open. They almost look real. Yeah, the French want to cheat us out of our country, but we will stop them. And brothers, the English, you must help us. Yeah, not all the Native Americans fought with the French. That's cool. Let's go this way. Lots of pictures of like frontier life. Should mention it was $8 to get in. Well, here we have another thing here. Fort Pitt and the fur trade. This is pretty cool. It almost seems like there's someone actually sitting in there. Some different furs here. Yeah, not as much here as Fort Ligonier. I think they have another building in town where they have more stuff, I think, but I'm not going to go there. All right. I think maybe we can go upstairs. Oh yeah, main exhibits on 2nd floor. Yeah, so there's more up here. Okay, just like Fort Ligonier, I'm not going to be able to show you everything. There's just a lot. It could be a lot here. There's a young George Washington.
And the Native Americans needed them to stay.
It kind of shows the scale of the war. It wasn't just in America, it was all over the place. In here. But one last look at the end of our journey here. Fort Duquesne. Forbes expedition of 1758. But that'll have to be it, folks. I know there's probably more you can see in the museum. I know some of you wish I would show more, but like I said, I'm on a time limit. I can't spend all day there. I have other places I gotta get to, other destinations. There's probably more to see even here yet. But anyway, folks, that'll be it. That'll end our series on the Forbes expedition. Now we just gotta get out of Pittsburgh. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one, wherever that may be.